Hello, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Afternoon for me. Welcome. Gonna wait just a minute for some people to join us and for everything to get started. Hopefully, you are all having a great day and nothing is stressing you out too much. But as you probably see scrolling on the bottom of the screen, in the chat, let me know where you're joining us from. And feel free to comment and ask questions as we go. I want to make this as interactive as possible. So ask me questions, comment on what you think I'm saying, whether you think I'm right or wrong, those type of things. Would love to do that. Do be aware that my screen is probably a little bit behind yours, which is fine, but know that I will get to your questions and comments as best I can. So what I want to talk about today is it a good time to be a manager? No. What does that mean going forward? Should people want to be managers? If you're an experienced manager, what should you do? Just ride it out, retire, go for a demotion, go find another role, whatever it is. Or if you're not a manager, but you were striving for that, then what do you do? Do you not want to be a manager anymore? Do you look at a different path? Do you go, okay, I think it's going to get better? Whatever it is. That's what I want to talk about today. And when you list all of the issues that are happening with managers today, it's unprecedented. The stress, the burnout levels, the stress levels, the layoffs that are happening in that particular role, as well as the economic situation that's going on. When I scheduled this and was planning this, I didn't anticipate the upheaval we were going to have in the stock market, but it it now is more relevant than ever that we talk about these things. So the question to ask is being a manager worth it? And I'm going to be honest, I'm if you know anything about me, you followed me at all, you know I'm very passionate about managers. I think they're an incredibly vital role to the organization, vital role to the people in the organization. And it's an honorable and joyous profession, can provide great value and great internal satisfaction. But you also know, just follow me, I'm somewhat of a pessimist. And looking at the current environment and the stresses that managers have been under for the past at least 5 years and how they're getting worse, there's a part of me that wants to say no, it isn't worth it. But that's not. I don't think that's the answer that we're looking for. So, being the good consultant that I am, I look at it and say, you know what? Is being a manager worth it? Yes, but I think there are certain elements and certain criteria that you personally have to meet to say that being a manager is worth it. If you don't meet these and you still want to be a manager, I think that's awesome. But I think if you want to have to deal with the stress and all the layoff potentials and all those things, you need to have certain attributes and criteria. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through that. I'm going to talk about where I think things are going, and then give you some actionable things towards the end that you can do to make things better. So when I say yes, but in terms of being a manager, what does that mean? Well, I think first of all, you have to go into management with the concept of being a servant leader. You really have to understand that is going to be the role of successful managers going forward. Being that servant leader. Now, you can get into the role because you want to move up and you go, you know what, I want to be an executive someday, and being a manager is the first step. I think that's fine. That's still where those executives are going to come from. But you also have to realize that to be successful, which is what you need to take that next step, you are going to need to be a servant leader. If you got into management because of the power, because of the pay raise, because of any other reason other than wanting to help the team succeed, you're going to struggle. And these issues of burnout, stress, layoffs, all those other things are going to be exacerbated. You don't want to do that. So get into it knowing you have to be a servant leader. And by the way, it's what all leaders should be, anyways. It's not some unusual thing. It's actually what you should be. But if you have gotten into it for other reasons, you're going to struggle. The second part of that, yes, but is no, it's going to be hard. Most likely things will get a little worse before they start getting better. And they may not get better for a while. It doesn't mean it's hopeless, doesn't mean it's a dead end, doesn't mean you're going to get laid off or fired. What it means is you just have to realize what we've done to get to this point doesn't change overnight. We don't just magically go, things are stressful, burnout's up, layoffs are up. Here's the magic fairy dust and fixes it. That's not the way it's going to work. It is going to take time. It is going to be hard. Okay? That even goes beyond the fact, as I've said many, many times, becoming a manager from an individual contributor, that's not a promotion. That is entering a whole new career. It is a whole new field. And to be prepared and be successful now and in the future, it's going to be even more so than that. So realize it's going to be hard. The third thing that I think is part of that yes, but is you have to understand you're not going to get as much external validation as you need. And what I mean by that is when you become a manager and you succeed, you're not going to hear a lot of attaboys or way to go and those type of things. People will recognize it, but it won't be celebrated. You will still have some external validation. You will see your team succeed. You will see things happen that are beneficial to you, and you will get that. But a lot of that is later down the road, unfortunately. But I say that in a good way because those impactful things you do now that you may not be getting that external validation for are huge in the future. They are amazingly important in the future, and they'll be thrilling when you get them. I had just recently an employee who worked for me over 10 years ago put a post on LinkedIn and say, you know what, I'm so thankful for all the great leaders I've had in my career. And he listed them off and he put me in there. This is someone I haven't seen in 10 years. I've talked to him a little bit online and chatted, things like that. And he still remembers the things I did for him multiple years later. That's the value you're going to provide. Someone's going to come back to you, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now and say, you know what? I really thank you for what you did. I didn't realize it at the time or I didn't say anything at the time, but it was amazing what you did. And that's where you're going to get that fulfillment. So those three things, know you have to be a servant leader. Know it's going to be hard. It's not going to be an easy road. And that external validation you want isn't necessarily there. All right, so I take my water. Now, how did we get here? I will give you the 30-second, 45-second history of management. Management first started as an artifact of the factory, where a manager was put in that position because they knew a lot. They knew more than anyone else in the plant. So if something happened or something broke down, they could fix it. So it was a natural progression of a manager's role was to know everything and to help grow other people so that when someone new came in the line, they could teach them how to do everything. When something was wrong, they were the one who fixed it. It was a very natural progression. Once we got into the knowledge worker phase, we kept that mindset of a manager, but it really didn't fit as well. Knowledge work is different than factory. I can't look at a knowledge worker and go, hey, you're doing that wrong, right? It's just not there. So it slowly started shifting, and then as people became more specialized and we started getting into more complex things, that role really became ineffective. The manager role became ineffective. I often say, if you're an HR leader, like an HR VP, think about all the things that are involved in that. You've got compensation, you've got recruiting, you've got hiring, you have benefits, you have all kinds of things, work laws, employment law, all this stuff that are incredibly complex. No one person could know all this stuff. So everything became more specialized. And what we started to see was, in many ways, the manager was the least knowledgeable about a lot of things because they weren't doing it day to day. Now, if you were a compensation person and you got bumped up and a new compensation person came in who's reporting to you, you probably understood what they were doing and had a strength there, but you weren't an expert in the other areas. And over time, as you stayed in that manager role, you lost that day to day feel, so you really became ineffective. And that's where a lot of the misperceptions of managers started. Oh, they're not doing anything. Oh, they just tell me what to do. Oh, this and that type of thing. And it's just not true. COVID hit and the whole world got upended. And I chuckle because when I started, first learning management concepts, we're talking in the 90s, one of the lessons you were taught very clearly in a business was you're a manager, you are not their friend. You try not to get too close to them in case you have to make decisions, and you stay out of their personal life. You worry about what they're doing at work. Now, that was wrong then, but that was very clearly the lesson everyone got. All of a sudden, COVID hit, and they're like, we need you to care about their well being. Ask how they're doing, learn about their families, be caring and human being. And it was like a complete mix up. Then when COVID ended, people kind of went, yeah, okay, so now we want you to go back to getting everything done, right? We don't have the resources we used to have for whatever reason, so you're still going to be an individual contributor a little bit, and you have to care about their well being and start to worry about, are you engaged? How is everything going at home? Get to know them as people. No wonder it became more stressful, right? That's insane to have to do all that. And that's where the trouble came in. So those managers who try to do all three, who say, you know what, I'm going to be the expert in everything and guide and manage and lead. I am going to be an individual contributor and do a bunch of stuff. And I'm also going to be that caring boss. And that's where burnout comes from. And then what happens is someone goes, I can't do all three, so I'm going to drop the caring stuff. I'm going to get results and do work. Because, to be honest, that's where you're going to get rewarded if you get results and do work. Very few people get bonuses because their employees feel good. They get bonuses because things got done. Right? So it became this huge mess, which is where we got today. And it's one of the reasons you're seeing layoffs now, right? They're going, you know what? Managers don't do anything, right? Which just isn't true. But that's the stuff you hear. And mostly you hear it from executives who have no clue what a manager does. You'll hear, oh, well, there's managers managing people. There's managers managing managers. And they get into this whole thing that a manager just clogs up the works and messes everything up and just gets in the way. There was a theory that went around for a while in the 2010s about holacracy, flattening of the organization. Get rid of those managers. Have the executives talk more directly to the frontline worker. And to be honest, it didn't work then. It's not going to work now. And it's just a huge failure. So if you see that coming, realize that's a company that's going to struggle. And there's no way around it. They think it works for some reason in their lizard brain. It makes perfect sense. but it's poor. And I'll tell you why that is a little bit later. So, what do I see happening over the next couple of years? Well, first, businesses are cyclical. Okay. Been that way since the beginning of time. Businesses are cyclical. So, you're going to see some big businesses like Amazon and Google do this thing, return to office and remote work and, you know, oh, we're going to go lean and startup, and they're all going to change. And then 2, 3 years from now, they're going to be something totally different. Businesses are cyclical. When one does it, the rest follow. They think it works. Oh, they must know something I don't. To be competitive, I have to do that. So realize this is going to change. This whole we have to lay off managers and do this. It's going to change, and they're going to start going. We have to put more managers in there for various reasons. They'll start to see, hopefully, the importance of managers, and that's where we have to go. So, like I said, businesses are cyclical. We're going to see changes coming in the next couple of years, whether we push them or not. Let's talk about AI. I am an AI skeptic in one regard, and that's in the business model. I think the technology is great. I think it has a lot of potential. I don't think it has as much potential as people like to think it does. But I'm really scared about the business model. And I'm not going to turn this into an AI, bash fest. But I just think from a business aspect, from a dollars and cents aspect, AI could be a huge disaster. I think the technology is there. And I think managers in particular can use AI to the benefit and start to learn that. There was a survey that was done several years ago in Europe, and they asked employees, would you rather get assignments from a robot or from your person manager? And over 60% said they would like it from the robot. And that was a precursor to this AI stuff. They like knowing what to do based on workflows and automatic assignments, being able to go and do those type of things. Manager doesn't help them as much with that because they can't know all that stuff, right? They like the fact that they do that. But when it came to things like wanting empathy or wanting support or needing questions answered that weren't very simple or maybe were challenging, they preferred the person manager. And that really shows what managers have to do. You have to realize your strength is not like the factory. I knew everything and I could teach everything. It's providing support, providing engagement, showing them that they're human and valued, providing empathy, not in a, wishy-washy, let's hug and sing kumbaya type of thing, in just a human dignity, in a human respect format. That's what the key needs to be, right? So managers who start to use AI and learn to use AI for the task stuff will have more time for that being a people manager, the human aspect. And that goes for you doing your individual work too. Organizations get it wrong by thinking managers should be individual contributors as well. It's just a bad idea, but it's always going to be there. So learning to use AI to be able to do your work and to be able to handle some of those knowledge tasks, huge benefit. It's going to free you up to do the people thing. And that's where your value will add. That is where, even if executives don't recognize it at first, that is where you add the most value. All the data's out there, right? Engagement matters. When someone feels engaged in their work, they feel a sense of purpose, they feel a sense of pride, they feel respect, they feel dignity, they feel all those things. They perform better, and the companies outperform. 70% of that feeling of respect and engagement comes from their direct manager. Let me say that again. 70% of that feeling engaged and respectful comes from that manager. It doesn't come from your pay, Doesn't come from if you work at home or you have to go into the office. It doesn't come from benefits. It comes from that individual, because people make other people feel respected. Programs don't. Systems don't. Money even really doesn't. And that's truly where managers add value. I've heard it so many times before, people don't leave companies, they leave managers. Yeah, because the manager has the impact. There's one study that says uh, your individual manager, your direct manager, has more impact on your physical and mental health than your physician. The only person who impacts it more is your spouse. So when it comes to engagement, the manager is that conduit, which is why those flat organizations and those holacracy of no manager organizations fail. That's where they miss the boat. And these companies like Amazon is doing it now. They're saying we're going to get rid of some managers. And we're just going to make our current managers have more people report to them. Okay, except more people means less time for the individual. If I have 10 people reporting to me, it's not easy, but I can spend time getting to know all 10 and interacting with all 10 every week and doing all that. If you give me 100, I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to be able to get to know them. And that means communication will suffer. And that means that respect and that engagement and that feeling like you belong there and you are not just an asset or a resource, you are a person. Okay, so AI can be the manager's friend if they use it. Again, this current flattening, it's a joke. Okay, and just remember the impact that you have on your team will be great, which means what you need to focus on is connecting with them, getting to know them as individuals, modeling the behavior you want. If you want them to constantly be developing new skills, you as a manager better be developing new skills and better be vocal about it. I want to hear, well, I took this class, but I didn't tell anyone. No, if you learned a new skill, you should be shouting that from the rooftops. Okay? Talking about disconnecting from work. Don't be the one who says, like I did early in my career, you should disconnect, but then I'm sending emails all weekend. Well, the employees are going, I can't really disconnect. That's where you have to struggle. So realize that modeling and your impact on the team matters more than anything. Okay. So let me start to talk about what things you can do. What are the things that a manager can be doing now to help their team? And again, these are things that are universal, but I would say now, considering the very unstable economic situation we're in, they play even a bigger role. Number one, be an advocate for yourself and your team. In other words, don't just work hard and keep your head down. Be incredibly vocal on the things you're doing, the accomplishments you're making, and where you're going. You should be able to tell this to everyone anytime. And that means you're going to have to communicate with your people more. Hey, what are you working on? What are you struggling on? How can we make sure we have the success to be able to show off to people? And advocating for your team. When you're in meetings with other managers, talk about individuals. Hey, Maria is working really hard at this and she's doing amazing things with this project. And just really being able to do that and advocate for yourself. One of my favorite stories, and it's a personal story, is I was with the company and we were bought out. And it was one of those where we were bought, it was announced because of all the regulatory and legal stuff, it wasn't going to happen for a couple months. In that couple months, I did this. I started advocating for my team. I started saying to my team, you know what? Start to share all of your successes. What have you done in the past year? What are you doing now? What are the things you're most proud of? Where do you want to go? And I started talking it up. And I started, because I had these things, I had them fill out a sheet that said, all this stuff. And I had it and I could refer to it and I could talk about it all those places. And I essentially advocated for the team left and right. What happened was when the sale was finalized, the new company came in and started laying off people. There was redundancy. Not everyone, it was kind of one of those targeted sub-departments got hit more than others. But I can say my department was the only one that didn't lose anybody. And I attribute a lot of that to the advocacy that we've been doing. I was shouting to the rooftops to the new company and to our old company all the great things we were doing. It wasn't a one time thing, and I didn't show it as if I was defensive. I was just like, look at this great stuff we're doing. And I said it over and over and over. My entire team was saved. Right now, my team was great. It was easy, but there were a lot of great people who lost their job because they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't understand their value. They didn't understand that. So be an advocate for your team. That's critical. As you develop skills, focus on the power skills: empathy, awareness, self-awareness, communication. The best thing about those is those are lasting skills, right? If you learn a technical skill, that's great, except those technical skills go away. I think back, one point in my career, I was an instructional designer. I knew the instructional design software. I could go in and do bloop, bloop, bloop. I don't know it anymore, right? But it's also not relevant for what I do. Communication, empathy, awareness, being able to relate to people, being able to network, build relationships. Those skills are everywhere in everything. You will never be in a role where you don't need those skills. And to be honest, those are the skills most in demand. And that's where you need to focus. So build your skills that way. AI is not going to be able to do that. AI cannot show empathy. I know that they've created these chatbots who you can have a friendship with. That's not empathy, right? AI needs to be able to know you. AI doesn't have feelings. It figures out what you want to hear. It doesn't tell you, it can't know what you're feeling. That's where you come involved. That's your special gift, your differentiator. You can know people. I can know that so and so has a child who's got a health issue and they need, some slack with what time they come in the morning and what time they leave in the afternoon. I can know that someone's, dealing with a sick parent right now, and it's a temporary thing, but they're kind of feeling some stress. AI can't know all that stuff, right? And it's not going to care, to be honest. So focus on those power skills. Yeah, I'd say, communication, obviously. Listening, I would focus on listening more than anything, but I would focus on empathy and I would focus on awareness, mostly self-awareness. Where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? What am I seeing? Those type of things. That will help you more. So focus on that for yourself and your team. The other thing is, third thing I tell you to do is focus on your manager behaviors. Don't rely on the organizational training or the organizational way of doing things, because, like I said, that's going to change and that's not going to help you. You should really be focusing on the managerial behaviors. Not surprisingly, that's what I teach, is those behaviors. How do you deliver feedback? How do you build a relationship? How do you set proper expectations? How do you delegate? Focus on those things. Do it on your own. Don't trust the company to do it for you, especially if this economic, I won't say crisis, but this economic situation remains unstable or goes down. You're going to say, we need training on this. And people go, no, we're not spending money on stuff. We're not spending money. So you're going to have to get this on your own. It doesn't have to be expensive. And that's one of the things I do with my program is I make sure it's not overly expensive. I do my best to help with that. But focus on those behaviors. Fourth thing, build connections. Not in the networking sense, although that's great, right? You should have a strong network. But build connections with people as people. Start to get to know them as people. It's not about networking for the future job. It's being a conduit, being able to say, can I help you? I was talking with someone a little earlier, and she was telling me about, oh, well, these are the people I like to work with. And I said, hey, I don't know someone exactly like that, but I can connect you to so-and-so who he lives in your area and he knows everybody and everything. So he can help you. I was just a resource, a conduit, right? That's what you want to do, build those connections. The fifth thing that I'm going to recommend that you do is be curious. Be curious about how you can do your job better. Be curious about what's happening at work. And when I say be curious, I'm not saying nitpick and look for things that are wrong. I'm saying be curious to go, why are we doing that? How can we do it better? We set that process up 3 years ago. What's changed since then that maybe we need to rethink about? Having that curiosity, that ability to rethink is critical. And it shows your value. When you can look at something and say, hey, I'm curious about why we're doing this and why, if there's a better way, organizations are going to like that. You're going to find at times little incremental things that just make things better, but you're also going to find something big once in a while, which is awesome. Okay. So those are the 5 things. Let me repeat them again. Be an advocate for yourself and your team. Focus on those power skills like empathy, listening, communication, awareness. Focus on your behaviors and get outside training. Don't rely on the company. Build connections to, number one, to have a good network, but also to be a conduit for people. Be someone they want to know because of who you know. And be curious. How can you fix things? How can you make things better? So that's pretty much it. Now, I do want to talk a minute about my services. So some of the ways I can help you. All right. So I have my Great Manager Substack community, which is where I offer most of my information. It is where I give a ton of resources. There's 2 levels of membership. There's a free where you get a newsletter and a blog post. There's a paid where you get a bunch of extra things, and I'm always adding things all the time and extra resources. I'd love if you could be a member. Membership is really inexpensive. $5 a month or $50 for a year. To me, it's a no-brainer. It's an easy way to get a lot of manager experience and advice directly to your email. I have a YouTube channel. Would love for you to go join that. Great Managers. I'm working on building that up and adding more and more to it. That's one of my focuses for this year. So please feel free to do that. And if you need coaching or training, which again, I said, don't rely on what the company's doing. If you need coaching and training, reach out to me. You can go to my website, btomconsultants.com, or you can email me. Let me put that information up. Visit my webpage at btomconsultants.com or email me at bwatkins@btomconsultants.com. Even if you don't want to engage my services, and that's fine. I think I can provide you a lot of value. Call me and say, I need help with this, or I need help with that, or whatever it is. Okay. I want to be that help. This is that stressful time. The reason I have my Great Manager community is because we're together and we're working together. And there's going to be situations that pop up where you're like, man, what about X? If we can talk about it as a community and we can address it there. So I know it's not a great time right now to be a manager. I still think it's an incredibly worthwhile endeavor. There's so much value to it. It's so vital to organizations and to people to have great managers. So get some help from somebody. I'd love to be it. If you don't want it to be me, but you find someone else, go for it, but get help. It will help you in your career, and it will make a huge difference to your organization and to the people who work for you. So I don't know whether comments have come in or not. I don't see any, but I would love if you would have, feel free to shoot me an email. Again, bwatkins@btomconsultant.com. Visit my page, right? And let me know how I can help you. I'm convinced managing is one of the most important things we can do. And I want my mission to be fulfilled. And that mission is to make the world full of great managers. I don't want to ever hear a bad manager story again. Right now, there are too many out there. So with that, I'm going to say have a great weekend. Hopefully you're not too stressed about the stock market. and probably be the first thing I check when I get off here just to see what's happened. But thanks for joining me. This has been recorded. It will be available on my YouTube page. So if you had joined late or you had to leave early or whatever, I will have that access for you. So thanks again for joining me. I appreciate your time. Hopefully you got some good information out of it. Have a great weekend, everybody.